Oh,
Hi friends, welcome to this week's episode of Dead Funny University! It's back!
yes.
I am your host and fellow student Kelsey, and this week we are talking about the Conjuring universe. Our Scaremaster today is Chris, and before we give him a chance to talk about anything, we need to give him huge props. He has put a ton of time and effort into the next episodes of the Dead Funny University that we're going to see over the course of October, because of course Chris and I try to do more for October than any other month. It's our anniversary month. It's a big deal, and he has put a huge amount of effort into this. So huge thank you. If you are willing to put a shout out in the comments right now for it to say thanks, Chris, for putting in the effort, please do so, because he'll read every one of them and it'll give him this happy warm glow inside and make him like, oh yeah, this is why I spend time away from my wife or my significant other and child to do this. It'll be good for him. But, Chris, right now, before you get all the warm fuzzies from other people, how are you feeling about the content that you created? How are you feeling today?
So I feel pretty good. As I told you off screen, I wanted to say it on screen as well, is that there were some other things to find out as I was doing this PowerPoint. So as you will see, the first two episodes will still have good content, great content, but you'll see the scenes look a little bit more clearer in the screenshots that I have in the later half of the PowerPoint, and that's because of obviously you can't screenshot other people's material. Found an internet browser that lets you do that. Hashtag thank you Firefox. And so better screenshots later. Just wasn't time to go back and replace everything that I had already did. So
keep watching over the course of October and you will see better and better episodes.
Yeah, they're still good. Regardless, they're still good. There's some scenes where you're gonna be like, that's a little fuzzy. And it'd be a screenshot. You'd be like, it's a little fuzzy. And then the other ones are like, that's crystal fucking clear. So that's the only difference. It's the only difference. Only difference. We're good.
Well, perfect. Where are we starting today?
All right. So, as those of you who can see the PowerPoint behind us here, we are going to be doing the Conjuring series. If you didn't get that from the title that, is up there as well. But the Conjuring episode, or the Conjuring series, is a series that is based off of Ed and Lorraine Warren, who are two real people who spent their life, I guess, being paranormal investigators is one way to say it. We'll kind of get into a little bit more about what each one of them actually did. The big reason why they are a big deal for me is because I'm a big fan of the Conjuring series. I've talked about it multiple times on podcasts that I like getting into ghost shows and stuff like that. Ed and Lorraine are a big name around there. And one of the things that's always interested me about them, and as something that, I'll remind us throughout the PowerPoint as we go along, is that they never, ever made any money off of doing this. They didn't charge to go investigate people's houses or anything like that. They literally did it because they believed they were helping people, which is very interesting. They actually, what Ed would do, would actually paint stuff that he felt that he was noticing in houses, and he would sell his paintings. And that's the money they made off. They never charged anybody for an actual consultation or to come investigate their house because they thought it was haunted or going to a haunted location. And by the time these movies started coming out, Ed was already passed away and Lorraine passed away shortly after this movie series started as well. So they never actually
didn't make money off of that.
This. No.
Oh, shit. Okay.
So whenever the reason why I want to bring that up is because the first thing people always like to say is, well, they did it because they were famous, they made money. And that's not how it happened.
Yeah.
They spent a lot of their life being criticized for the stuff that they did solely because they blew up for the Amityville horror house was was their biggest case. And so everybody, was, they were getting called. And you'll even see that in the movie. There's a couple different, slides that I have for you where you'll see there's reporters who are talking to them, and then they'll have a scientist there and they're like, yeah, you guys are just nothing but a big hoax. There's not a house that you've went into that you haven't thought is haunted, blah, 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 and all this other stuff. And that was always a big deal. Is that's not how they made their money. They actually did, other work, and that's how they got by. The only thing that they ever did make money off of that even comes close to this is that whenever they would go to a location and there was a item that they felt was actually possessed by energy and what was the negative source, like Annabelle you might have heard of, they would remove that item and keep it sealed away in what they called their museum. And they would actually let people come and see this stuff. And I believe that they sold tickets to that because you're going into their home. Their museum was in their home. So, and people would come and tour and see all the haunted items, blah, 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 blah. That they actually, I believe, sold tickets to. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I'm going to go ahead and say that they did. That museum no longer exists because both of them have passed away. The daughter shut it down, but she did keep Annabelle and did keep her locked up in a cage And we will talk about why Annabelle is locked up in a cage. Not only is she locked up in a cage, she is locked up in a cage that is made of a decommissioned chapel glass. So a decommissioned church, they went up and actually grabbed the chapel glass and made that into a glass cage to house her in. Even the gold that's around it is from like the crosses and stuff that were like tore down and broken up. They melted it down, and like she is in a holy cage that is blessed by a preacher 2 times a month.
I was about to ask if it had been blessed. Sounds like it's actively being blessed. Maybe blessed as we speak. Jeez. Okay, so there is no question that Ed and Lorraine legitimately believed in what they were doing.
Right.
And whether the child believes it or not, the child believes enough to respect the belief of Ed and Lorraine.
Right.
Interesting.
Yep. Ed, which is very interesting, was the only one at this, I still think at this point in time, the only demonologist to actually study the entire, whatever, and not be ordained by the church. So he had no ties to the church. They still worked as agents of the church, but he actually was not ordained whatsoever. There's actually a time where he's performed an exorcist or two in lieu of the church giving the access to be granted, but he's actually never been like an actual ordained anything for the church.
Okay, so to say that a different way.
Yes.
They very much believed, and you're using the church, but I'm going to be very specific. They very much believed in the Christian God, the power of the Christian God, and the Christian version of hell and demons. That is something that was core to their belief system, but it was not arguably, I don't want to say the source of their power because that's not biblical, but it was not, he was not trained in that from a priestly perspective, okay, interesting.
He ended up meeting a woman who is a bit of a, I guess, she can kind of see beyond the veil, if you will. There's multiple different versions of these, and I can't remember which one they call her specifically. I'm pretty sure I have it written down. We'll get to it in a second. But he fell in love with her. She's seen shit. She's claimed that whenever her mom was dying, she saw an angel in the hospital. It looked directly at her. Like, she sees stuff. And a medium, if you will. So she kind of goes through the house, figures out if something happened. Then that's whenever Ed kind of does the whole investigation, figures out all the stuff. Then they try to get evidence to prove to the church that there actually is something going on, to actually get the blessing from the church to do something, whether it's an exorcism of a house or of a person, to get whatever evil fucking spirit is there the fuck out of there. So that's kind of how they work together. So meeting with her got him into it. And he was kind of like, and that's one of the touching scenes where she's like, the only person that's ever believed me. I found him. And then the person she's talking to is like, what'd you do after you found him? She's like, well, I married him. So, I'm telling you, I told you this off screen, and those of you who watched Conjuring, Kelsey doesn't not know yet, but there's a love story in these movies, and it's fucking awesome. We're not going to be able to do it at service because of we're not uploading me and Kelsey just watching the movies here, but I do have some scenes where you'll be like, oh, that's really fucking awesome. So it's really cool to see that. So
these two... Yeah, let's take 8 seconds and say it. These two have a very real relationship.
They've been together since they were 17.
Holy crap! Okay, follow-up question. Most relationships formed at 17 are not super healthy for 8,000 reasons, and this is especially true when you go back in time. Mm-hmm. So, do we have reason to believe this was a healthy relationship? Yeah. Outside of these movies,
absolutely, 100%. Like there's videos of them, pictures of them, like that they were out there. Like people could fucking see them, go visit them. Like they legit like believed in each other, believed in like. There's a lot of times where like you'll hear Lorraine talk because that was the cool part was like for the first couple. I think it's like this first 2 movies that she was still alive for, maybe even the first 3. She was on set. So once again, and I do want to preface this. There is a difference in these movies, and the difference is history and Hollywood.
Oh, yeah. They always diverge. Like, the Titanic didn't happen the way Titanic shows it. Like, correct. Get it, guys.
Exactly. So, like, all this stuff that you're going to see drummed up, Hollywood. But shit still did happen, if that's what you believe. Shit did still happen. And that's what Lorraine was there, is to make sure that, like, the actual storytelling element was correct to not only pay homage to her and Ed, but also the families that were involved. Because the cases that we go into, especially The Conjuring, they're about the actual families that this took place in. They use their actual names. And the family signed off on it as well. They're still great fucking, like, they send Lorraine, or they used to send Lorraine gifts and stuff every year for the work that she did. The Perron family, the Hodgson family, like, they had some real shit happen. So, it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. But anyways.
So, this is actually, like, the closest we can get to legit supernatural historical fiction. Is that what you're trying to say?
100%. Yeah.
Okay.
Every movie starts off with saying this is based on the true story of... And then it goes into The Conjuring or The Conjuring 2, blah, 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 blah. Yeah.
And has any, like, third-party verification service ever, like, swooped in and been like, yes, we were able to confirm via receipts that, like, Ed and Lorraine were here at this time, they encountered this family, all that jazz. Okay, so this has been, to some degree, like, we can't audit the supernatural elements by any means, but to some degree, like... some of the facts that we can audit have been audited, is what you're telling me.
Yes, so I will say this. This will be quick little spoiler, not only for you, but for the viewers who haven't seen these. The Conjuring 1 many ghost adventurers have spoken to this family and have had them on camera and talked to them after the events, and they've spoken very highly about Ed and Lorraine and the work that they did. On top of that, the second Conjuring, it is public information. Anybody go look it up. There are actual police reports where police came in and saw items moving around on their fucking own. Actual police reports. And then the third one is the first time in America, third time worldwide, the case was ever used in court of a murder of the devil possessed me and made me do it. So, little teasers for you there. So, yeah, a lot of this stuff is heavily fucking documented and fucking there. So, yeah, it's kind of...
Okay.
And at the end of all the Conjuring movies, if we listen to the credits, which we can do, if we listen to the credits, it actually plays the original tapes of Ed and Lorraine that they had, of them being there. Their original tapes, yes. So, like, there's this, like, little girl that's possessed, and when she talks, she sounds like an 89-year-old man. And they show that in the movie, and you go through all of it, da-da-da-da-da. But at the end, they play the original tapes that Ed actually did whenever he was there that many years ago. And you hear the actual tapes.
Okay, so the part about that's awesome is the opposite of most people are like, after a horror movie, you should have the bloopers during the credits, so then, like, everybody can calm down. The Conjuring universe did the reverse, where they were like, no, we want to convince you even harder that this actually happened.
Except for one movie, and it's my favorite one out of the series, and it's that one I was telling you about. They had that awesome song going, and it's just been beating in my head all day, but we'll get to that too. But anyway, so into The Conjuring, so let's go ahead and get started up here. Oh, I'm excited. So,
me too.
We have the Warrens. On the left, we have Lorraine and Ed. On the right, we actually have the actors that played the Warrens. I absolutely love and cherish both these actors. I can't remember his name right now, but I know her name is Virga something. I don't know. We'll get to it. I have their names. I have their names down in other slides. Fuck me. Look, it's been a long week, all right? Anyway, so, Ed Warren, born September 7th, 1926, hometown of Bridgeport, Connecticut. Occupation was an author, a painter, a demonologist, once again, not ordained by the church. Not many of those exist. I don't think any of them exist besides him, but anyways, not many of them, we'll say that. And paranormal investigator. His family was his wife, Lorraine Warren, and daughter, Judy Warren, and yes, she does appear in 2 of the movies. So we do get a little bit of Judy in there as well, which... like I said, she now owns Annabelle now that they're both down. Died, age 79, passed away at his home. So that's nice, as long as he passed away at his home. Lorraine Warren, born January 31st, 1927, hometown Bridgeport, Connecticut as well. Occupation was author and paranormal investigator. Family, husband Ed Warren, daughter Judy Warren. Died at age 92, passed away in her sleep.
Okay, so she lived to, like, She lived into the 2000s. Like, that's impressive.
Yeah. She died recently. Yes. So, yeah, she's been around for a while, and she's super awesome. So, their top 10 cases. Some of these you might know, some of these you might not, but the first one that should strike you is the Amityville Horror House. They were the first paranormal investigative team that went into the house 10 days after the family fled due to all of the fucking shit that was going on. This is a huge fucking deal in the horror genre. Everybody in the horror genre knows about it. There's a great movie out there. If you haven't seen it, Ryan Reynolds stars in it, of the Amityville Horror House. It's fucking super great. He did a super awesome job. check that out. You can actually go and look. The Amityville Whorehouse is actually on sale. And it's like $5 million to be able to buy the Amityville. Like, it still stands to this day. There were actual recorded murders there, everything. Basically, the story, for those of you who don't know, is that there was a morgue in the basement a long time ago of this building. And then as it got, or turned into a house, blah, 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 the ghost and, pissed off spirits of that, time started to possess the dad to stay down in the basement. And he would just start to distance himself from his family. And then, like, everything outside of the basement just irritated the fuck out of him, to the point where he killed the entire family. Like, that's the story of the Amityville Whorehouse. Then he killed himself. And so the family that moved in after that got haunted by that specific spirit and was going around breaking shit, tossing pictures off of walls, hurting people in their sleep. You'll hear a lot of different lingo, which I'll explain to you as well. Like, did you know what the mocking of the Trinity is?
No, I don't.
So the mocking of the Trinity is whenever you hear 3 knocks. And it's from, something as far as demonic. Whenever you're talking about ghosts and stuff like that, it's supposed to be... I was going
to say, Discord silenced it, so I did not hear the knocks.
3 knocks. Yeah, I forget Discord has that sound suppression. Anyway, so 3 knocks. The recording picked it up. So yeah, it's whenever you have like an evil spirit or a demonic spirit, and it's mocking the Holy Trinity, the Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost. So it's supposed to be a mock at that. That's also why the witching hour is 3 a.m. Once again, it's a mock at the Holy Trinity. So at 3 a.m. is supposedly whenever, shit, gets real at night, blah, 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 blah. Once again, choosing on what you choose to believe. Don't come to this, expect me to be an expert. Not an expert in the field. But Annabelle Horror House, the demonic werewolf in London, is an actually very interesting case. And the reason why I say it's interesting is that it was a man who believed that he was actually possessed by a demonic werewolf. And the reason why he felt he was possessed is because he would have these fits of rage that would happen where he would have zero memory of it. And he had actual superhuman strength at that point. So, like, there's actually, like, records of, like, him being a 7-year-old kid. And he was literally pulled like, an entire fucking fence out of the ground. Like, an actual, like, chain link fence, went to each post and just ripped them completely out of the fucking ground. Completely pissed off and shit like that. So the demonic werewolf in London, Union Cemetery, Demon Murder Trial, the Smurl family house. These are all different ones that we're not going to get into because they're not part of it. The ones that are part of it are going to be the Perrin family house you see over there. That's one of them. The Hodgson house isn't on here, which is kind of weird. Infield Poltergeist. That's the Hodgson one. And then Annabelle. We'll definitely be touching on those. But the other ones are just kind of like their top cases as far as, people that felt that they needed help and they went there to help out, blah, blah, blah. But Amityville Horror House was the one that put them on the map. That was where they actually got into the media light and people started being like, wait, there's people who go and investigate ghosts? This is a fucking thing. And at that time, there's a lot more, our thoughts were a lot more constricted at that time of like, what's fucking real versus what's reality, to where now, today's day, there's a lot of shit that we're finding out and having to change our narrative on that may or may not be true and may or may not, actually have existed before or exist now, blah, 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 blah. So a little bit more open-minded, if you will. So some people, are starting to look at, ghost hunting and shit like that as, like a potential profession and shit like that. So shit changes over time. But if anybody had somebody to think about it, that does become like a for sure like shit you could step into. Ed and Lorraine Warren took the initial ass whippings for being those people because they were thrown through the fucking ringer. I mean, imagine getting called crazy on national TV, getting told that your entire life is a joke on national TV and that you don't help anybody. You're just scamming people on national TV like time and time and time again. So these are the people who fucking stuck their necks out for people to have that kind of fucking fun doing it now. So we have the Conjuring cinematic universe. So I have the dates up as well, which you'll be able to see here in a second. So what I'm about to show you is the chronological order. But I also have the dates up to show you when they came out. Correct, exactly.
Okay, cool. Because we have 2 different chronologies. We have the actual stories, and then we have when the films came out.
Correct.
I imagine they don't line up.
Exactly. So, 2018, we got The Nun, which was one of the newest ones.
Yeah.
2017, we got Annabelle Creation. 2014, we got Annabelle. 2013, we got The Conjuring, which is what started all of it. 2019, we got Annabelle Comes Home. 2019, we also got The Curse of La Llorona, which was, in my opinion, not a good movie. It's lightly based. It's lightly based, and what I mean by that, and why we're actually not going to be covering the curse in our DFU, is
Oh.
because the only reason it's considered part of the Conjuring universe is that the priest that they deal with in Annabelle also was the priest that helped the person that dealt with the curse in Ya Llorona. Warrens have nothing to do with it, and all that fun stuff. So yeah, it was a different kind of movie. It was like, I felt like the priest was more the one that was in there, not the one that connects them, but the other priest that he hired to go help out was like, I'm gonna fuck this ghost up, and fucking like action hero type. It was a weirder. I don't know what they were doing with it, but it wasn't for me. The Conjuring
It's more like
2,
a spin-off.
yeah, The Conjuring
Okay.
2 in 2016. That one is my favorite movie out of the series. The one that I was talking about earlier with the music would be Annabelle Comes Home. So if I had to pick my favorite for The Conjuring, it's the second one. Favorite for Annabelle is Annabelle Comes Home. That movie is amazing. And then last but not least, 2021, The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. So as we talked when we were looking at those big cases, we talked about Annabelle. Obviously, Annabelle's going to be covered in 2017, 2014, and 2019's Annabelle series. The first one being Annabelle Creation, because it shows you obviously the creation of Annabelle, then Annabelle, which was actually the first Annabelle movie released, and then Annabelle Comes Home. The Conjuring is the haunting of the Perron family. The Conjuring 2 is the haunting of the Hodgson family. And The Conjuring 3 is the one that I told you about, was the first ever recorded U.S. case using The Devil Made Me Do It as an actual murder charge, plea. So, yeah.
What's so interesting is, even in what you've already described, I see so many ripples across so many different facets of our lives. Like, I don't know what Amityville Horror House is. Not a damn clue. I've heard the term Amityville. I know if I'm going to see that like in a video game, like, hey, this is a place people not only go to die, but there's like supernatural shit going on in here. And I don't know anything about this. Like, I'm learning all of this right now on camera in front of all of you. So like realizing that had such an impact across all of these different like areas. I'm thinking even of the way that you told the story of the demon werewolf of London or whatever. Like, you can trace parts of that story all the way up through like modern superheroes and modern supervillains. Like, even what was the movie Split a couple years ago?
Yeah.
Like you can trace that line. It is a direct dotted line. Like, there are like weird turns and like, I don't know what happened, but it ended up here. Like, direct line between those two ideas. And then when we're talking about like The Devil Made Me Do It and the long-term consequences of like, how can you prosecute someone who isn't mentally capable and things like
that comes
that.
up in the movie too.
It's a super, super interesting conversation. And so the impact that this couple had in real life, like, let's step away from Hollywood for a second, but like real life people, is just insane, especially given that it sounds like many, and I'm not saying that they were great artists, but like many great artists of their time, they weren't appreciated at their time. I mean, even
Correct.
like, if you want to take it biblically, Jesus says a prophet's a prophet everywhere but his hometown.
Yep.
Like, just acknowledging that nobody, if you are in any way unique, special, meant to like change the social narrative, the people who've known you your entire life aren't going to listen to you.
No. Nope.
And so this is very interesting to see the many different ripples that came out from these two people, and three if you want to include Judy. I don't know if she should be included,
Not
but like
really.
these two people and the work that they were dedicated to doing, whether they were scam artists or they were completely legit. Like, we can have that debate all day with nobody actually ending with an answer that means anything.
Right.
Like, but they've had huge cultural impacts internationally.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I think that's really cool.
Yeah, it is really cool. So yeah, so that will be kind of how we dissect this and go into it. But yeah, like I said, so one of the cool things here, though, to point out is that The Nun itself is a movie that dates back long time ago. And the cool part is that the nun that you see there, obviously scary looking, and as you'll come to find out right off the bat, because they talk about it, so there's no spoiler here, but that is a demon. And that demon actually traces all the way through the Conjuring series. So you'll see that as soon as we get in, like the many times that she's actually plagued Lorraine throughout the Conjuring series. And that's why they ended up making the movie way later on, to actually show the origins of what they feel the nun was. So this is where that history versus Hollywood comes into play. Hollywood making their, their version of, this is how this demon started, this is how it got to da-da-da-da-da, with some light history being in there as well, where you'll actually see how it got from where it was at to how it ended up where the got to Ed and Lorraine, how it plugged them through their life, blah 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 blah. So yeah, it's really cool.
Wow. Okay. So, would you suggest, as somebody who's, I imagine, seen all of these, um, would you suggest watching them in chronological order, or
Yes.
like chronological for story or chronological for time?
Chronological for story 100%. So like you can take
Start with
Annabelle,
the nun.
you can
Okay.
take Annabelle out. Like you can completely take the entire Annabelle series out. It would be the Nun, the Conjuring 2, and the Conjuring. Well, technically she doesn't really deal in the Conjuring 3. They kind of deal with the Nun in Conjuring 2, but the Conjuring 2, and the Nun for sure like chronological. Now, where the interesting split is, where Annabelle comes into play, is that Annabelle is technically in chronological order. Technically, I don't know why the actual list they have on their website is this. Technically, Annabelle should come after the Conjuring 1, and then Annabelle comes home before the Conjuring 2. Because there's a conversation that happens at the end of Annabelle and at the beginning of Annabelle Comes Home that sets up for whenever they go to start talking about the Conjuring 2. So that's a little off, but this timeline isn't going to really screw you over at all. You're just going to hear the same conversation had 2 times in a row, and then it kind of leads into the third one. You're all like, okay, well then why was it before the first one and they had nothing to do? So that's all it is. Nothing too crazy. So watching it this way is not going to blow anything up. It's not. But if we're talking about just the Conjuring series, Annabelle could technically be taken out of it. But she's their biggest thing, which is actually kind of cool, and we'll get into a little bit more later. But like what you see here versus what the actual Annabelle doll is 2 completely different things. So whenever you see what the actual Annabelle doll looks like, I'm gonna be very interested to see your reaction to that. If like that's what the fucking actual Annabelle doll is. So
I was about to ask if she bore any resemblance to this, so
no,
now I'm interested to know if she
no.
doesn't, like,
This is
what the hell
Hollywood.
she looks like.
This is 100% Hollywood for sure.
At this point, I'm picturing a Raggedy Ann doll. But my question is, why is this then called the Conjuring cinematic universe and not the Warren cinematic universe? Because the Conjuring is only relevant for the first, like the Nun, the Conjuring, and the Conjuring 2, and then I guess technically the Conjuring 3.
So
And the Annabelles are separate. Like, is it because it was just the 1st?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So they started with that, and that's like one of their like. So the Conjuring for itself too is like one of their first cases where like they left. And Ed kind of says in the movie too, and I think it's a scene that I have put out for you to watch as well, where he literally says like every time Lorraine comes to do this, she loses a piece of her.
Oh shit!
Like shit happens. Like I know it's kind of hard to see a little bit, but like if you're looking at the Conjuring case right there, if you actually look at the ground, you see a shadow of actually somebody hanging from that noose. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like some shit went down there big time. And so like it's one of those where that was like one of their biggest cases. So like the director was like, all right, cool, we're gonna use that as like this is the cinematic universe we're gonna build.
Okay, so it has more to do with the success and the interest and like the buzz around that particular case
Exactly.
than the fact that ultimately all of this is about the Warrens.
Yep. And
so
being from that, realm of, being into paranormal shit and stuff like that, it would be a disservice to the Warrens to not do something that involves Annabelle, because Annabelle was such a huge part of their life and is such a the quote unquote little bit of spoiler here, not really though. The quote unquote behind Annabelle is that for those of you who aren't into what the actual demonology lore here is, and the demonology lore is actually brought from different verses of the Bible, and it explains how demons work, is that a demon can't possess an object, but a demon can possess a person. A ghost can possess a person and can potentially possess an object. Now, a demon can possess a person, but that person has to offer that demon to be able to possess it. So a demon's always looking for a soul. And in the Bible, the way that Jesus or Christ or whatever you want to say had his power over demons was the fact of knowing their name. The name gives you power over them because it shows them, one, you know who they are, and two, you completely understand that, their power isn't actually, as strong as it could be because you now have dominion over them with their name. So with that being said, Annabelle is a conduit for the demon that's using her to try to get what it's trying to get. And that's why it's so strong. So in the actual museum that they have in real life, we're talking real life now, In the real life museum, as I told you, she's in that chapel glass and everything else, and you'll see that in the movie too. There have been 10 cases of people, because they won't let nobody touch Annabelle. She's in a glass case locked up. It says do not,
of course not.
absolutely do not touch. There are people who will mock the doll and like hit the glass or something like that. Like, I'm not scared of a doll. Da, da, da. Out of the 10 people who have done that, all 10 of them have died on the way home.
Holy shit!
These are actual things that you can look up, verified facts. The last one was a guy on a motorcycle who was talking shit about Annabelle, and it was before Ed died. And Ed's like, I wouldn't tempt the doll because it's real. Like, we believe this is real. Like, it's real. And on his way home, a guy who has never been in an accident in his entire life drove directly into a tree doing like 120 miles per hour and died instantly. On the way home from the museum. Not like 2 months later he died in a car accident. No.
Because, like,
on the way home. Yeah, because, like, that's how you're going to tie that back to Annabelle.
You said all 10 of them died on the way home?
From the reports that I read, all 10. Now, once again, I urge you to fact check that yourself, but I know for a fact the one that blew my mind the most was the motorcycle victim, and I actually dove into that one. And that was on the way home. I think they said it was specifically 2.5 hours outside of where the museum was at.
So you said that Ed said, excuse me, you just kind of quoted him, she loses a part of herself every time we do this.
Correct. Which is why he doesn't like her to do it. But she will never let him go do anything like this without her, because once again, they're a team, they work together. There's some other underlining shit that you'll see really early on, but I'm not going to spoil that here. So,
okay.
But yeah.
Okay.
Now, to give everybody a heads up, the way that we're doing this, like I said, intro episode, second episode we'll do the Nun, third episode we're going to go into Annabelle. It's not going to be to the fourth episode that we really start to dive into the Warrens. So, it will technically be the last part of the third episode, because Annabelle comes home, deals with the Warrens. Directly deals with their daughter, mainly, but the Warrens a little bit too. But you really won't to really start to get into their relationship and how they work until we get into the Conjuring, and that's the last episode. Say the best for last, in my opinion. So, yeah. But other than that, if you ain't got any other questions, we can go ahead and wrap up this first episode and make our way over to the Nun.
Oh God, I'm so excited! Yes, let's do it.
All right.
sorry, that's an attitude. That's a command for me.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Sorry, guys. I'm just so interested. I have so many questions, and I'm so intrigued. And right now, all I want to do is sit down and watch all the movies. So that's going to do it for our first class on the Conjuring Cinematic Universe. This is not our last class. Obviously, he just explained the timeline for us. So please show up in a week, watch more with us, and if you liked this content, please subscribe, turn on notifications, and obviously send it to all your friends. We have comments below. We want your thoughts. Again, just a quick reminder, please do a shout out to Chris. He put a ton of effort into this. And if you can't tell, because you haven't done a PowerPoint presentation since middle school when you had to, he did a whole bunch of effort to do this, and PowerPoint just updated midway through and just destroyed all of his work, so we had to redo it. So please show some love for Chris in the comments, I beg of you. You can also follow us on Twitter, and we have Twitch links below for a bunch of the people that game with us, or that we game with specifically. So come, do all of those things with us, and we will see you guys soon. Also, there are merch links. Come join us for the next episode, which I'm about to learn about. Bye, guys. Bye, friends.